Hey everyone, it's Saturday, not Friday, which is a little bit different. We were super busy this week, so I'm just getting around to doing this week's DIY video today. And I wanted to get it done because the colors were so cool in this week's bucket, and we had a bunch of them going out, so I wanted to give a little bit of DIY inspiration for it because there were some cool flowers in there. This week I'm just using a 6-inch concrete pot. Well, it's like 5.5-inch concrete pot with chicken wire mechanics, super simple, and water in it. The colors this week were actually inspired by a flower that's not in the bucket. This really crazy looking anthurium that we got in, that went in the pre-designed arrangements, that were sort of a weird sort of khaki and mauve-y and rosy cherry color. So we kind of took the inspiration from those and did this week's bucket with it. So let's get started, see what all the good stuff is that we have in here. First off, let's just see what's in here. We've got some really nice, let's see, dark expression roses, which are awesome. Look at those. We have these cool ones. These are called Limeade. You don't get them in that often. They're pretty cool because they're very flexible. They have nice flexible petals, so you can reflex them and they're cool looking. So these are the Limeade, that kind of acid green color. We have our Salmon Ranunculus. We have some Cherry Red, I don't know if I can get it out of here, Brilliant Star Spray Roses. And we have some of our, these are antique, or what they call vintage collection carnations. They're kind of hit that nice in-between color that got that coral terracotta kind of flavor going on. We have some emerald green hydrangea that we'll use at the base. We have some, oh my gosh, let me get this out of here. Safari Sunset. Safari Sunset. Leucadendron. Again, has all this cool variation on the stems. You see the green in there, the softer pink color kind of ties in with the other blooms, and you've got this great dark sort of brown red color. And we've got a whole bunch of greens that we'll get to as we go. We've got some white hypericum berries. And we've got some, just to keep going with those lighter colors so that the green roses and the hypericum weren't totally alienated in the bucket. We've got some pretty white anemone going in this week, and these are the panda ones. Over here. All right, so let's get started and we'll do the greens as we go. So we have 2 of these emerald green hydrangea. So I'm gonna give them a cut. Remember, get all of these little nubby knobs off, whatever they're called. I'm gonna put these into the arrangement kind of vertically, but tipping outward, so you can see this way it is kind of tipped to the outside. I want to cover the line of the pot there, but I don't want it like falling out, right? So it's kind of at, you know, maybe, would that be a 20, 30 degree angle, something like that. I have another one in here. I'm gonna put it right behind it. Same deal, trimming off all the little nubbies. I'm gonna come in right behind the other. Again, tipped off to that other side. Actually, this is a little bit long. I'm gonna take a little more off so I can tuck it in further. I wanna be able to see it in my arrangement. I'm gonna put the greens in between and through it, not just through the arrangement. So I'm gonna tip them off so you can see them on both sides. You can sink one in a little deeper than the other and have the other come out a little bit, you know, so you have a little bit more layering, which is nice. We have some salal or lemon leaves in the buckets. This is one of the green foliages that we have. I got a lot of green in there, so we're gonna layer it in. Green was one of the primary colors we were working with this week. So we wanted to get all the cool tones. Got some like foresty greens, some more like khaki, army green colors in here, olives, lots of fun stuff. So you should have about usually 5 pieces of the salal in there. So on either side of the hydrangea, just kind of break it up a little bit, but not break it up entirely, because I want to see the hydrangea in the arrangement. I don't want to totally cover it, so I'm gonna go in between with it and just kind of see it peppering through, like so. Then I'm going to use my Coculus, a perennial favorite here. You can get a couple of placements out of it, so I'm going to trim it right in between on the stem. Let's see, I trimmed it right above where it attaches into these other petals, or leaves. So that way you get 2 placements and you don't see any ugly cut stem. Here, I reinforce the shape that I started with my salal or lemon leaves. Tucking these in the same direction. You'll have 2 of these in your bucket. You should be able to get 4 or maybe even 5 placements out of them, depending on the length of your Coculus stem. And you can really get a little wild with it too if you want. You just want to make sure that your stem is clean going into your container. You don't want anything to go underneath those hydrangeas into that water. And then I kind of don't like these two sticking off, so I'm gonna edit that off and just use this as a piece. There we go. Trimmings here. All right, I don't want any nubs. All right, I'm going right like so. Angle it in. You can always come back and re-angle them, make them work how you want. I usually go with my largest blooms next, but what I'm gonna do is use these spray roses because they take up a lot of space even though they're not individually large blooms, and also because these lateral stems coming off from the main stem help create more grid in between the pieces of, or the spaces in the chicken wire so that you can hold more flowers in there, right? And there were 3 stems of this. Again, we're cutting on an angle, we're cleaning off any stems or leaves. If you have some side pieces here that you think are long enough that you can use in your arrangement, cut them off and use them. If you just want to group it all together and use it as is, you can do that as well. So this one I'm going to go through my hydrangea actually, because I'm just going to let these roses go through it and float on top. I'm going to spread those blooms back out again once I get them into my hydrangea so they take up some space. I'm going to do the same thing with the other 2 blooms that are in my bucket. Turn this so I can see what I'm doing here. All right, here we go. Oops. Here. So this one's a little wild looking. I'm gonna just pull this guy off because I don't think he's gonna work. And I'm gonna, again, pull the laterals together, give a nice clean stem, a trim at the end. I'm gonna go right in here. And once it's placed, so it's floating right above that hydrangea, I'm gonna spread them back out again so I get most bang for my buck. I'm gonna do another one right there. This guy has some crazy ones too. He's a little bit too low, so I'm gonna pull that off. Group these guys together. Maybe pull this guy off too, honestly. Give it a trim. And we are going in. So making a nice little triangle start of these roses, spray roses hovering above our hydrangea. Letting them kind of do some of the design work themselves because they have natural, different heights of the blooms on the stems. We can just place one stem and it'll just kind of do that for us naturally. These guys are probably too short to use, so I'm just gonna hold on to them off to the side for a while. I might end up to keep them, put them in a bud vase or something later. Next up we have our carnations. And I'm using them next, not because I don't think they're pretty. I do love these, they're so super pretty, the color, and I love the vintage collection ones. I want to keep them a little bit lower so I can put my roses on top to pop. So I feel like this is going to be really nice with some of these layered on top because it has just like that very like similar color, but not quite exactly. So I'm going to pop these in first. And you're going to want to squeeze this part underneath here and fluff it so you get a nice big bloom. Sometimes they come a little tight. That's a good thing. They last a really long time. And again, I don't want to push them all the way in, but I just want to kind of hover just a little bit over the height of the hydrangea. Here's another one. And again, I'm gonna give it a little squeeze and then I'm gonna trim it. You never want to cut it right on these little spots where the leaves come off, right? You want to go in the stem in between. They drink water much better that way. And these, there's 3 in the bucket. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do them in a triangle, sort of in between my roses, or my spray roses, I should say. Give it a little fluff. There we go. And we'll go in back here. There we go. All right, so now I got my 3 of these guys in. And then we have 3 of these in the bucket. Time for those now. Dark Expression are one of my favorite roses. I love the color. As they open and they age, they get a little bit softer in color, which is nice. And they go so well with reds, especially in the fall. I feel like this collection of blooms this week was really starting to lean towards fall, so I was really digging it. All right, so we're gonna place this in here. So it's hovering, but a little bit higher even than we were before, out further than the last one. Okay, so this one's like nice and open. You can reflex these petals too if you wanna like flip them back to get them a little bit bigger. It's not gonna give you a nice clean reflex like a Playa Blanca or Quicksand will, but it'll still make the bloom a little bit bigger. I'm gonna layer these on top of my spray roses. Actually, let me come in here a little bit straighter. It's just kind of coming out at a weirdo angle there. Come on, go where I want. Sometimes it's you have to do a couple of placements to get it exactly where you want it. All right, do what I say. There we go. Okay, and then this one last one, again, so working in that triangle and coming out from my roses. We have this cool triangle kind of started with these guys tucked in a little bit. You've got your, these terracotta carnations, you've got these guys popping out. Got a little bit of layering, so not everything's hitting at that same height. Now we're gonna use our limeade roses. These need a little bit of a blow to get them moving. I like to give them a little roll too, just to get them started opening. And there's 2 of these in the bucket, so these I'm gonna sink kind of more centrally in my arrangement. And these 2, you can, you know, roll these back a little if you want a little more drama going on, just to reflex those petals. They reflex really nicely, actually. Kind of give that impression of like a cabbage, you know. There we go. Maybe I'll just do a couple more. These are great if you want to use them as more of a focal instead of tucked into an arrangement, because then you can see all of those petals folded down around the outside. So a little there, tuck it in here, right down in that center area. Something a little taller than that. Sink it in a little more. There we go. And then our other one, I'm gonna sink it in right here too. So they're kind of in the middle of the arrangement. Give it a little blow, maybe a little roll. Cut along at first, because I feel like my roses are sinking in there. I don't want them to fall all the way in. So, especially if you know you're going to try to replace the stem or move it around a bunch, make sure you are cleaning any little knobs or nodes or nubs off, because they really do make it difficult to take them out of your arrangement and then try to put them back in, because I want to stick to everything. All right, so now I've got kind of this cool like focal of this like cabbage in the center here. I'm going to pull these guys out so you can see it. This green is getting on my nerves a little, but I will leave him for now. Next, I'm going to put my Safari Sunset in. Now, you can use this on a couple of different placements if you want. You know, if you want to cut it like along here, kind of like we did with the Coculus, to try to use more of this bottom, you can, but there's no real clean way to hide that cut mark, right? So I usually just use the top and try to use it a little bit long so you can see those greens on it there, and just strip the greens I don't want off the bottom. Again, getting that stem nice and clean so it goes into our chicken wire easily, and it's not going to muck up our water. Put them there, and you should have 3 of these in your bucket as well. Just clean this right off. Sometimes you get lucky and you have like a little side shoot, you know, and then you can use those, but these guys are pretty much straight up one piece. But they're really great because they kind of work as a foliage, but also as a focal, so it just brings like a lot of interest into that base. There we go. Tuck this guy right in there. Perfect. And then all the way around. Make sure I got stuff at different levels. I don't want them sticking out too far. I'm going to jog these out a little bit just to give it a little purpose. Move this guy, actually keep him in the middle, move him this way. It seems like the spot has like a little hole that needs help. Okay, so we got that going on. Then we have some really nice, well, before I put my ranunculus in, because I don't want to break them up, I'm going to do my hypericum berries. So I'll just strip these bottoms off here. And I like to leave the greens on at the top and just take the greens off on the stem. And these guys are going to sort of balance out my green roses. They have that nice pop of white going on in there. And you can use these sticking out a little bit. You can tuck them in however you want. They have a pretty easy stem to work with. Sometimes they have really nice foliage on the stem, in which case I would leave that on and use them a little bit longer. These are pretty run-of-the-mill, just 2 nice leaves pretty much at the top, so that's what I'm going to use. Use that green to my advantage there as more foliage, just to add interest to the foliage in the arrangement already. Okay. And then we've got some floaty flowers that are going in next. So we're saying we're feeling a little bit fall here. We have these really cool, they're like a caramel mum. So I'm gonna just take a couple of these petals off the back that look meh. There we go. And I'm gonna have these guys sort of float. I want them to come out from my arrangement because they're very large. I don't want them to like get mushed down in there, and I also don't want them to cover anything. Now the chrysanthemums can be very knobby, so really make sure you're cleaning those stems. Make sure it's nice and clean. It's almost like a little umbrella, you know, just gonna like put it on there and like them sort of like shade the other flowers, but not totally block the other flowers. So we got 3 of these guys in here. I know some people are like, meh, mums, but when they come in these really cool varieties, same thing with the carnations. Like I just love all the variation you can get now. You know, it's really, they're not boring. They don't like funeral flowers and they last so long. So we love them here. So So look at that nice like caramel color. We get them, you know, going into fall, we have like brown. We get the ones in that are sort of a lavendery middle, the peachy ones, just so pretty. And maybe it is just like the nights getting a little bit cooler that are making me really look forward to fall, getting ready to get the kids back to school, all that mess. I can't believe summer's is almost over. Here we go. All right, so we got this guy going around. All right, now I'm gonna put my ranunculus in because I have less of a chance of ruining them. I'm always worried I'm gonna put them in too early and then break their stems. I got one there floating. Oh, so pretty. These get so ruffly and nice. Got another one here. This one's got it's really pretty articulation on the neck, so I'm gonna let it float. And kind of on either side of that, of those limeade roses, but floating on top, so you can see that color through it. Look at that. Look at that little face. I love it. It's so nice. All right. Speaking of little faces, now we got our anemone. Now these guys have crazy stems, so you just gotta try your best with them. Appreciate Mother Nature and try to figure out where you want that bloom to go and then set this stem back from it as best possible. It is not ideal, but I know if you try hard enough, you will find a home. Now for these guys too, since we're working with the chicken wire, you just want to be really careful because if you hit the chicken wire and you hit resistance, it just splits the stem and then they curl kind of like a calibottom and then they stink. They just basically break. So take it easy with them. If you start to put it in and you meet resistance and you're just like, this isn't working, take it back out before you break it and look for another spot to place it. Oh, look at that. And I love this with like these ranunculus that have that are fully open with the little middle. So cute. Here. Okay, just let it float. There we go. Ugh, all the little happy middles, I love them. All right, now the last things we have are a couple more greens, just to like bring that green story together. So we've got some sword fern, which is nice. These are great because you can just strip it right like that. It's so nice. And kind of measure it to where you want it to be in your arrangement. I want these stick out a little bit, but I don't want them to be crazy. So I'm just gonna tuck them in. Be careful not to break them. The stems are pretty firm, but they do break easily. So take it easy with that. All right, and then this guy, I'm just gonna strip it like so. And this one I guess I'll have coming off to the side. Now, what's something you can do with if you like a more asymmetrical look with the sword fern is kind of put it all off to one side. That really gives it a little bit more importance in the arrangement. It doesn't look as separate, and you can play with the overlapping shapes of it too, kind of angling them against each other. So that's something you might want to try if you're interested in that look, just to get something a little bit more asymmetrical, not all around. So, got two off to one side here, playing with that asymmetry a little bit. Tuck those guys in, and then we have Plumbosa, which is one of my favorite greens. It's Plumbosa fern. I love it as a plant. I love it as a green. It is, however, thorny, but the thorns go the reverse way. So before you do anything with it, you cut your stem and you cut the side pieces off that you don't want to use. You want to take your scissors or your knife or whatever and go up along the stem and cut off all of those little knobs. And then once you put it in, just put it in the arrangement and try not to move it around too much, because I feel like every time I go back to move one of these around, one of the thorns catches me and drives me up a wall. These have it's so romantic and like soft looking. So tuck this little guy in here, and the color is so pretty too. It goes with all those mixed fern colors that we have going on. I'm gonna place this guy for a sec because he is covering my rose and I don't like that. Okay, there we go. And there are 3 ends in here. You might have them in like grouped. So this one you can see is one stem, but it's got 2 nice long lateral pieces. So I'm gonna use the 2 nice long lateral pieces. Here we go. So I have 3 placements. This is another thing where it's like another green where if you want to play with that asymmetry and the weight of it, overlapping the stems of Plumbosa create a really nice look as well. We do it in our elevated arrangements a lot here, just like piling the Plumbosa over each other and making this really cool like overlapping waterfall. So, and you can do that in a low arrangement too. Just to make sure that they're not laying directly on top of each other, that you create a little bit of 3-dimensional space, because otherwise it just kind of looks like matted hair, which is not the best look. Okay, so here we go with that. Awesome, so pretty. All right, so I got my Plumbosa in, and I have this like little nub piece left over at the end, so I will use that as well, just to get a little bit of fill, because I could see my foam, or not my foam, my chicken wire a little bit underneath this one spot, so I just want to make sure it's all filled in. There we go. So you definitely do not want to see your mechanics. All right, there we are. Trim this little guy off. All right, perfect. All right, so there we go. The Diplomas, it does shed a little bit, so make sure you kind of clean around it every once in a while is the nature of it, unfortunately. It is pretty, but it is sheddy. There we go. So that concludes this week. Sorry for missing a day. We've been so crazy busy here, but wanted to get around to it anyway. Hope you guys are having a wonderful summer. Even if it is almost over, let us know in the comments if there's anything in particular, especially heading into fall, if there's something that you really want to see, like a fall variety or a fall palette that you're interested in, or if you want to see something maybe with more greenery or using plants or succulents or something like that. Let us know, because we are here to please. We want to get as many different ideas out there for different types of arrangements, different sizes and shapes of arrangements, so that you really have some good inspiration, not just for colors, but for like shapes that you can employ with different mechanics and different types of pots and vases. So anyway, until next week, maybe on Saturday too, because we're looking at another busy week, but till next time, happy designing.